Okay. So wait, all right. So John, so you're saying that a lot of the the feminist movement, or not, maybe not saying, but maybe hinting that maybe the feminist movement has a little bit of influence in this structure. But let me kind of try to counter that with a question. Is it that it's the feminist movement that is influencing, dudes to stay away from women, or is it more so women staying away from dudes because they see how toxic, some of
Mm.
these dudes can be, right? Because I think Steph kind of
Masculinity.
alluded to it before, right, when he said that about grandmas and our grandmas and grandpas staying in these relationships, but a lot of them being more so abusive. Now that women don't have to have a man like back in those days to actually do something, is it that the feminist movement is telling them to is scaring men away, or is it that the old antics and even the old guard, some of these traditions that we kind of mentioned before, is that what's keeping women from staying committed to these men who are kind of showing that they have the same tendencies as, their abusive grandfather? Or,
I wouldn't say that. Um, I would say it's more just the influence of today's time. Meaning this, um, I think it was maybe 70 to 80 years ago, probably 100 years ago, when women did not have the right to vote because they thought it was a man's place to vote, and that all they were meant to do was bear children and take care of the household. And then women fought for that. And then years later, I think it was Title IX where they were allowed women to play sports because society thought that women again are too delicate for certain situations like this. And over time, um, to my viewpoint, that women felt oppressed in certain situations, certain cultural differences, so on and so forth. This is also including in the marriage where a lot of people will say that the man is the head of the household, and basically a woman doesn't really have so much say in that kind of relationship because of the dominance of the man's role. And I think personally, the feminist movement in this particular topic is just, I guess, inspiring change, of course, in a good way, but kind of uh, doing a disservice of togetherness. It's kind of like a separate but equal type of attitude, is what I'm seeing, especially in the marriage part um, of it. So it's not necessarily like to get away from the generational curse of the abusive granddad or whatever, but it's just I don't want. I think it's separating instead of bringing together. I think that's the best way I would say it
okay,
when it comes to marriage.
what you think about that, Alexis? You
I feel
the
like I feel like you're asking an accountability question. Um, because the second part of your question was accurate. Women are moving away from guys that have toxic masculinity, the ones who say, allow me to lead, but they don't know how to lead.
Who
okay.
determines that leadership?
You do how you act. Your actions determine who's a leader.
So if he says he's a leader, but a woman disagrees, does that make him a leader still?
No, show me.
So I got to prove it to
Mm.
you.
If you're wanting to commit to me in a marriage, why wouldn't you want to show the person you're marrying that you're capable to lead?
To whose standards?
It's not about a standard. We're simply saying some people can't lead the way that they say they can.
I get what you're saying. I think nowadays, or rather, what I'm going to assume she means is that um, we see some men, right? They say they want this and that they're this kind of leader, but some of their actions to, I guess, what we know that type of leader to be or what they need to be, they aren't doing that per se. And to when it comes to like what standard is a show, we as men have to set that standard. And if we're setting a standard of mediocre leadership, then that's what is gonna come out. To that same thing, though, I will say that when it comes to being a man and being, just the leader of, the household, you have to understand that there are certain things that you just kind of got to stand on. And sometimes, if she doesn't necessarily, or if she doesn't like see like what you're doing, doesn't want to get behind the mission or behind you and allow you to lead, then maybe she's not the one for you per se. But I kind of get what you're saying, Alexis. We as men, we have to set that standard and prove it to ourselves more so than prove it to the woman, because at the same time she has to see it, right? And if she don't see it, if she's already made up in her head that I want to be led by this guy, then she gonna bounce regardless. So it's
You
not
should own it.
so much about. Well, I mean, yeah, that's what I'm saying. Like we have to own it, but at the same time, to what John was asking, I don't think it's about proving to the woman, but being steadfast in the fact that if you're supposed to be a leader, then you're the leader. And at the end of the day, if Shawty don't want to come behind you, then Shawty just ain't gonna come behind you. You just gonna have to keep moving and pressing on.
Mhm.
A friend told me that prior, we was talking about relationships in that of itself. We just kind of set a bar. As a man, you have to be able to put your foot down and lead. And I just I'm reiterating, but and she will fall in line when she needs to fall in line. But if she doesn't want to, then I mean, look, you just got to keep moving on and keep pressing. You know,
And starts with us.
I think that's what she's kind of saying. To your point, John, what it's more so of, oh well, you set the standard. You do, because we have to. Yeah.
Okay, fair enough. That's fair.
All right. CDC released new mask guidelines for people who are vaccinated. If you're vaccinated, you don't need to wear a mask.
Say it again.
Around everyone. If you're vaccinated, you don't need to wear a mask. So it's fairly important that people go ahead, finish getting vaccinated, and it's a lot of good news going around because of the eligible people, at least about 70% have their first shot. So
That's good. Any point where we can get to normal a little bit more, I guess, back to what it used to? I know it's never gonna go back to how it used to be, but if we can like get rid of this whole, I don't know, quarantine and like have, I don't know, we just need to get back and like really try to figure out what's the next moves are, instead of always fighting each other on whether or not we should wear a mask or not. I don't know.
Well,
But
I think
that's good.
Well, I think it's because it's been a year, like a full year, since we found out about COVID, and it took about a year to get this vaccine started. So I think by the end of this year, going into 2022, um, it will be normalized as a common sickness, and people will go back to normal. Um, it just literally takes time for it to happen. I am personally mask fatigued, if that's the way to put it. I'm tired of wearing a mask. I'm tired of having my glasses fog up because I'm wearing a mask. But I also understand the severity of what has been happening, especially in India. I found out today that the government is kind of sugarcoating the actual statistics on how many people are affected by COVID, and it's sad because India has one of the most highest cases, nationally in that area. And the guy who was telling me this his source was he works with people from India, or he has people whose family is from India, and yeah, they're not basically given the whole truth about what is really happening over there, which is the most craziest part. And I see why the government would do that, because they don't want to cause a panic. Like most governments, they don't want to tell their country all of the dirty details just simply for protection and not to cause panic or it. But this is something that's like extremely, extremely serious in that part of the world. So eventually, once the vaccines come in and everything dies down, we should come back to normalcy. But I just feel like it's just going to take one more year, or probably just half of 2022, for it to get to that point.
Well, there are still guidelines for just public places, public transportation and stuff, such as buses and trains and planes and everything. They're still going with the mask guideline, and that's these transportation industries. But yeah, like I said, we're just glad to get to the point of normalcy. And we just want to be able to do our thing again.
Yeah, I think the mask part, I think that's gonna, kind of stay with us for a little bit longer, maybe for the next 2-3 years. I think, especially with all these guidelines like coming into practice, because you have a lot of people, of course, even though the incentive is to, hey, don't get vaccinated, don't wear a mask. Even though that is the incentive, you still have a lot of people who do mistrust, vaccinations. I have people in my own family who aren't so trusting of a vaccine that just came out like after a year of being in quarantine. I mean, though at the same time, it's not like anyone was out doing anything else anyway. So what other time spent than to go ahead and make a vaccine? But I mean, all jokes aside, I think that when it comes to like schools and even like Steph said, some people who are still doing the guidelines such as planes and buses and all that stuff. I think this will still be a little apparent for the next couple of years because, like John said, it might become a just a common cold or a common sickness now. Um, that need and that necessity to protect yourself from it because of how serious it can be and what else it could lead to. I think we're gonna at least keep the same mask, a certain type of mask guideline within the next couple of years. I give it till at least about 2024, 25, maybe. You know, um, yeah, it's just too fresh. I'm looking at schools. I'm subbing at a school now that has put so much into social distancing and just other things like that. Um, so yeah, so I think for the next couple of years we'll see more mask guidelines, not more, but just relative mask guidelines, light mask guidelines. Some restaurants asking, "Hey, you still need a mask," when you come in, or planes, "Hey, we ask that you wear your mask while you're seated." Just I don't know, just maybe like little things like that.
Yeah. If that be the case, then people don't be jerks when people are asking you to wear a mask. They'd rather do anything else. Promise you, they would rather do anything else.
Yeah.
This is their policy, though. Don't be assholes when you walk into a restaurant. They're like, "Hey, we're still wearing masks here."
Mm-hmm.
Even though you take it when you start eating, but yeah.
And well, I got two more things. The first thing, this is a real quick thing. the Mavericks are in
Trash.
the playoffs. Are in the playoffs. We're comfortably in the playoffs. We are fine. The Lakers are right now doing play-ins. So,
Did did you feel like you had to say that?
and you know, part of the reason we're actually in the playoffs and not the play-ins is because when the Lakers came and played the Mavericks on a road trip and everything, those back-to-back games we won both of them.
Let's hope we win that shit.
Both of them. Hey man, listen, you know, just saying, we're here. We're here.
Yeah, you're here. You know who
Yeah,
I'm
that's
rooting
right.
for if the Lakers don't make it?
Who?
Portland.
Yeah,
And
yeah. If the Mavericks don't make it, I'm definitely rooting for Portland.
Yes, I'm rooting for Portland. Portland and the Suns.
I don't care about the Suns.
I just want a good
like
game at the end of the day. My Lakers can't make it. I just want a good game. I don't want to blow out, but I also don't want like the same typical teams going to the playoffs, of course. So if the Lakers don't make
are
it,
a typical team going to
okay, but we're the top tier team, and
No,
also
we're not.
the
We
team.
haven't been in the playoffs in 10 years before
What?
LeBron got there.
What?
We
I
are
can't
the
hear
team.
you over your championship ring from last year.
We are the team.
We didn't win a ring in 10 years.
The team.
Oh, that's cool. When's the last time the Mavericks got a ring? How many rings the Mavericks got?
One.
Exactly.
Does it matter?
Yeah.
Does they
Yeah,
matter?
does
Who
it
are
really
they?
matter?
Who are they?
They're the team that whooped y'all asses 2 nights in a row.
Okay,
It's
this
not
year.
Dirt County anymore.
So, and beat y'all last year too at one point, but hey, who cares?
Hey man, even the ugly kid gotta get a pretty girlfriend every now and then.
Mm-hmm.
You just called the Mavericks. You know what? That's fine. We're gonna just slide on past the disrespect, and I will watch y'all play the Warriors, and hopefully you be.
Like I said, take out the three and
go ahead and
the
get
Warriors
in.
and nothing.
You play one more game. All right then.
It kind of hurts that one of our pupils on Lakers country is injured again in LeBron James. I mean, I don't.
That's it.
Yeah. And you know, speedy recovery on that ankle. But I honestly think it's time to hang it up. And call it a career. Now I know he's not going to do that, but he is on the decline now.
You talking about LeBron? Who are we talking about?
Career. Aaron Rodgers has retired from the sport of football after 16 seasons.
Mm-hmm.
And the whole reason he retired was because he didn't want to play for the Packers anymore.
Dang. That's
Was he on a contract or something?
Like yeah, they wouldn't trade him. He wanted to get traded, they wouldn't trade him. So
well he can retire and then unretire.
Well,
say it again. But he is gonna have to sit out this season. So this is last but not least, the new J. Cole album dropped.
And fire.
Yeah, it's fire. It's a great album. And the tradition of J. Cole dropping great albums, it's just another notch on the belt right there. So my hat's off.
It really is. I'm not even gonna lie. The features, which I'm not even used to J. Cole even having, are like top tier. And my goodness.
21 Savage killed this feature, bro. He killed this feature.
I can't understand why people don't like J. Cole though. You know, I don't get it.
That is their business. That is
No, because
That's not the real music.
no, because people are always like, like for instance, and I'm sure a lot of you guys can attest to this. We're always talking about like I'll bring up female rappers. How come female rappers all they do is talk about sexual stuff and da 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 trying to be hood? Where's all the substance and blah blah blah? And then when we have substance, it's like man, Cole's so whack. He ain't talking about no real stuff. And it's like I don't know. I often see that
Strictly hating.
like
That's
coming
all it
from
is. Strictly hating.
the same people, like the same people who will talk about a Cardi B verse not being deep or impactful will turn around and look at a Cole verse and call it boring, as if he's not actually like spitting some facts.
True story.
I don't know. I just never understood that part of people.
All right. I love y'all, but I gotta go because it's late. I gotta get to work in the morning. So can we wrap it up? Just tap it, please.
all right. That's gonna be it for what's on the fridge. John had to leave us because he is old.
And working men, you gotta get that job in, gotta get that sleep. You know how old folks be about they sleep.
But we brought our special guest on today because we wanted to ask her and just kind of discuss the situation that we've been seeing. I personally have been seeing very prevalent and well and bad. And they both have confirmed that they've also seen it. And that's the conversation about when you're talking to someone about a relationship and you're asking them, what they're bringing to the table, and their response is, "I am the table." What the fuck does that actually mean?
Can I eat off you? Got a second.
Yeah, man. What is this? Do I put some dishes on you? You need a tablecloth? Are you sturdy? Do I need to put a coaster under a leg? What's going on?
That's good, kind of kinky.
That
Hold up.
I get what they're saying if you're referring to women, how they said it, however, might have ruffled some people's feathers. And what that's coming from is, that saying, give a woman a house, she'll turn it into a home. Give a woman some food, she'll turn it into a meal. Stuff like that. So I think that's how they're thinking of it. But how they delivered that, though, specifically, like, I am the table, like, what? It's a little aggressive.
How do you increase something if like you said, if you're at the table? I don't think tables
right. Like I think that's a stretch. What should have been the saying is, I have something to bring to it.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? Like,
And see, I wanted to examine from a male and female's point of view. That mindset. Both the answer to the question and the response to the answer. So basically, I want to see why you would even say something like that, whether you were a man or a woman. And then how do you even respond to that?
Well, the problem now when it comes to communication is too often we give vague answers and we don't elaborate anymore. So sometimes people need to ask the question, okay, you say you are the table. What does that mean? What does that look like on a day-to-day basis if you're in a relationship? Like, you got to ask those the hard questions. People ask the easy questions like, what do you like to do for fun? And all this extra stuff. Like, no, let's get to the nitty-gritty. Like, are we dating with intention, or are we dating just to pass time?
Okay, come on.
That's a good point. That's a real good point. I like that. I think, like you said, to your point, I think it is a little bit time to ask those hard questions. And even going back to earlier when we was talking, I think because we're having those harder questions, or some people rather, not maybe not everybody, but some people are, having those harder questions. They are, yeah, that's just why certain things are the way they are. We're asking these questions. That's why we're not getting married to people who are toxic, right? A lot more people are doing the important work that they need to.
Mm-hmm.
But when it comes to, uh, I guess when it comes to like what is it? What do you bring to the table? Oh, I am the table. I think a lot of men push back on that part because like we men don't want to feel like they're being used, right? There's this narrative that goes that men aren't appreciated unless they have a certain monetary value, right? Um, and it's kind of the case, right? Because in a sense, a dude really ain't doing much if he ain't got, some type of monetary access to certain things. Like if he can't buy you lunch, then obviously, like, shorty, what you with him for, right? But then I think we people have gotten into the whole, well, he has to have money, the dude gotta have money so much that now some guys are saying, well, how come I have to always have the money? What are you gonna do? Are you just gonna sit there like not do anything? Well, then that's the case, can you do this, that, and the third? And I think
Well,
it's
this
because
is
women are saying, oh no, I don't want to do that. I'm my own person. Why would I have to do that? You should just be fine with doing whatever I tell you to do. And I think that's why a lot of men kind of push back on that narrative. What do you say about that?
that's contradicting to me, because then if we go back to the conversation we just had about women being independent and saying they
Mm-hmm.
don't need anybody, but then you're getting the woman that you want that needs somebody in the way that you're used to, and then you complain about it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's like, which one do you prefer? Do you prefer the woman who's got that income and doesn't have to rely on you in terms of monetary, but you guys are actually helping multiply that one income together? Or do you want somebody that relies on you heavily the way it was back in the 50s and 60s, which is why divorce never was a major thing back then, because when you think about it, women weren't making that much money, let alone if they were able to get a job. So how is a woman, so back then the way the women are thinking is, how am I going to raise 5 kids and I don't have a job, or I barely make any money, and who knows if the dad is going to even help take care of the kids once you divorce,
Okay.
because that was a different type of man back in the day. So it's like, which one do you want? Because now I'm hearing, like, this is how we are and we want to provide, but women are so independent that they saying they don't need it. But here go these other crumb snatchers over here that want it. But now you're saying, what are you bringing? So you want the independent
Mm,
woman, but I think we're misunderstanding what the independent woman is.
Mm.
that's a bar.
Yeah, but listen, well, um, what is the independent woman then? I guess. Uh,
She has her own mind. She knows, like, she doesn't need somebody to say, this is the way you should move. She's not so, and it really comes down to monetary. I really think a woman's independence comes from a monetary place. It comes from a place of, I have my own mind. Can't nobody tell me how I should move in terms of how I want to work. Because if I want to be a career woman, I can be a career woman, as compared to somebody saying, I would rather have you be at home and take care of the kids. I think it's more so embracing that I can make my own decision. My spouse doesn't have to make it for me. That's the difference. However, when it comes to, like, the work that you're doing within the household, that's a different situation, because you do take his opinion into account.
Okay. Okay.
But back then, I think it was full, complete submissiveness. If her husband said, I don't want you to work, okay, say less. You want me to have babies? Say less. But the woman now, but dang, I want to, I actually like careers. I actually want to go to work. I like my 9 to 5 in this field because it's my passion. Some people don't look at it as it's a chore, as work is a chore, but some people look at it as it's satisfying. You have your own identity. Your identity isn't just being a wife in the household. You have your own individual, you're an individual, and it's more acknowledged now as compared to you being acknowledged only as a household. Like that's the Johnson family, not that's Karen and Bill.
Okay, so when it comes to relationships, when we're talking about what do you bring to the table? So we know that men typically bring security, right? Women women want security, and that security is rooted in financial security, spiritual security, mental security, emotional security, and physical security. What would, in that vein, what would you think a woman should bring? Not necessarily what do they bring, but what should a woman bring if the man is supposed to provide the security?
Well, she's providing security too, because to be honest, the person that really takes the lead when it comes to emotional security is the woman. So she's still providing you security. When you sit and think about it, we're more emotional beings. When y'all are going through something, y'all had a stressful day, who got your back? Who's gonna be like, what happened?
I'm gonna push back on the more emotional beings part just a little bit, just in the sense that it's not so much, maybe it is a personal belief, so I'll say this. I believe personally that it's not so much that men or women are less or more emotional, but understanding of emotions are a completely different thing. So women, I believe, understand their emotions a little bit better because society, it's a part of her being. And that's something that is
conditioned through like society. Technically.
Yeah, but as far as men are concerned, in society, you aren't supposed to act on emotion.
No, but that's why you need somebody that has emotional maturity. Men sometimes, I'm not going to stereotype because it's not the case all the time, but sometimes men feel the best thing to do is just push it back and focus on your main responsibilities at hand, because in your mind, I have to provide and I have to be this security. For women, we're like, no, pull that out so it doesn't affect you later down the line when you have a nervous breakdown and don't know what's wrong with you. I think in terms of developing emotional maturity, women are just a tad bit faster on that sometimes.
Oh, most definitely. And I mean, to a degree, you would agree with my point. It's like, you're not, as a man, I know as a man personally, I wasn't taught very well how to deal with my emotions.
No,
I wasn't taught
at all.
I wasn't taught very well how to understand my emotions. Instead, the values, morals that were instilled in me is that no matter what, you provide, you work, you go hard, and you just deal with whatever you have to deal with behind doors.
Exactly.
You know, men.
But just imagine how much trouble you would have saved yourself had they taught you how to have emotional maturity.